Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today we're going to be making the Weddell seals of Antarctica. We're going to be using 12 by 18 sheet of paper. And we're going to be using simple circle tracing shapes here. These are just covers from coffee and covers from a butter dish. The cover from the coffee is approximately 6 1/4 to 6 inches. I have different ones in my classroom that I give the kids. So anywhere between 6 and 6 1/4, and then this is about 4 1/2 inches wide. That's how big the circles are. So we're going to go ahead and trace them. The first thing we do to trace them at the very bottom of the page. And obviously the large circle is going to be for the mother, and the smaller one is going to be for the baby here. And what we do is we find the center of our page, and we're going to put the big circle near the edge, but leaving about a finger from the edge, because we don't want the face to touch or go off the page. And then the baby's going to be lower here. Okay, so arrange, let me slide this up so you can see it. So arrange this on your page so that you have, here's your center, a little bit below the center is the larger circle. And then the baby comes, if you measure halfway here, a little bit lower than halfway. So I have mom and baby. Now I'm going to go ahead and trace them. You can trace them one at a time, obviously. What I do is I give 2 circles to the kids, and they take turns tracing them. You can trace the baby first if you want, or the mom first. Again, leaving about a finger space to the edge, and then go ahead and trace baby. So just baby's lower than mom. You want to make sure that's like that. Now we're going to go ahead and start putting in the details of the faces. We're going to start with mom first, and I'm going to show you step by step how to draw mom, and then you're going to be on your own to draw baby, the baby's face. It's going to be identical to mom's, just smaller. So what we do is we find the very center of our circle. I'm going to bring this in closer so we can see it. So we find the center of our circle, and we're going to put a number 1 in the very middle. If you're using a Sharpie, just make sure you cap it on the back so you don't lose it. So I'm finding the very, very center of my circle. There's my center, and I'm going to just put a number 1 a little bit above it and go right through the center. It's going to be as long, here's the tip of your finger. It's going to be about 1.5 inches long. So if you do the first section of your knuckle, almost to the middle knuckle here, this bend. Okay, so you want it to be about 1.5 inches long, at least 2 fingers wide. So if you take 2 fingers, stack them up, that's how long I want the center to be. Now we're going to make the little nose area, and they have like little slits that almost look like, well, it's almost like a curve. So we're going to come up and curve over, just a short curve over, almost like an R. If you had a straight line here, it's almost like an R curve, a small letter R, up and over. Now I'm going to find the center of each side. So I'm taking that R curve here, this curve, and I'm going from this edge to this edge and finding the middle. I'm going to put a little dot here for the middle and come on this side. Find this where this line starts, come over, find your middle, put a little dot. Now with that dot, I'm going to slowly make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to come around, and I'm making it almost the size of a pea, the vegetable pea. Okay, look, it's almost the pinky fingernail. So if you have your little pinky fingernail, and now color that in. That is the pupil of the seal's eyes. Now we're going to go around this. They have pretty large eyes. So I'm going to go around this and trace around it slowly like a donut. So it's going to look like a donut, Come down and around and go slow, just real carefully so you don't make any mistakes. And if they're not exactly the same, mine aren't exactly perfect, don't worry about it because we're going to be coloring them in with brown. There's his eyes right there. And so the brown kind of blends in with the pupil anyways. Now, they have very circular eyes. So the little corners are very small. If you compare it to a human's, we have bigger ones. So I am going to, from this top, I'm coming out and over. I'm going to put a tiny dot very close. So line it up with the top and put a small dot. On this side, come on over just a little bit and put a dot. Their eyes are kind of angled. They're not straight across like a human's. So I'm going to connect this and connect this. Bring this down, bring this over. There. Now, I'm going to come diagonally down through the eye and put a very tiny dot on this side, the side bottom. I'm doing the same this way, side bottom, and I'm just going to connect it. Those are his nice big eyes. Now for the mouth, I'm going to come over approximately one finger over, one finger over. And now I'm going to slightly curve down. It's going to be a curve like you go down a playground slide. So I'm curving down, just curve it down. It's kind of a sad face right now. But now I'm going to curve this up gently and on the ends slightly hooked up. So now I'm going to curve it back up and on the end slightly up. Makes him a little bit happier. Now he has distinctive rows of little black spaces here, little black spots where his whiskers are. So we're going to start near this number 1, and I'm just going to do a little, I do a little bit of a shake. I put my marker down and do a little bit of a shake. It makes a small little circle. I'm going to do a row of 4 to 5, depending on how many spaces you have. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have enough for 5. You might have enough for 4 to 5. Then the next row above this, we're going to go like this. 1. I'm going to only do 4. I'm going to do less on the next row. And then just 2 to 3 here. And do these nice and neatly. Craftsmanship is really important. Now we're going to add a whisker. And it's going to be, watch my whiskers first. It's going to be a line, and then I'm going to, as I make my line, I'm just going to kind of lift and flick my Sharpie so that it has a gentle, thin line at the end. So I'm going to come out and lightly flick up and lift my hand as I do that. So watch this. Out and lift up. Then I'm going to go out almost straight. See how it makes the ends real thin? Let's make sure you can see it. Yeah. So on this side, I'm going to go out. Don't worry about going off the page. And then I'm going to do some downward strokes here. 1 and 2. Kind of flick them. Don't overdo the whiskers. You just want a little bit of accent for whiskers. Now, these seals, these Weddell seals of Antarctica, they are pretty large and they have kind of a blobby type body. A lot of blubber. So let's give some kind of curving lines underneath and a curving line underneath. This is kind of just showing the wrinkles in his skin. This is the front view, and then his body is just lower down here. His body's going to be all off the page right here. Now, on your own, you will do the baby seal here. And this is some examples from my kids who just did the video with me, and they are ages 7 and 8. It's grade 2, and this is halfway through the school year, so it's they're 7 and a half, 8 and a half years old. And this was done in a 30-minute class period. Now, to finish this off, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be taking some of this metal paper. This is foil paper. Or you could do aluminum foil if you don't have foil paper. And what I do is I tear the foil paper, you can see, into like triangles. And these are the cliffs of Antarctica. I'm going to show you quickly what Antarctica looks like. Some of these rocky mountains and ice mountains of Antarctica. I start out with, this is a almost 5-inch by 9-inch scrap of metal paper, and I'm just going to tear it. So I want to tear it, I'm going to start here, and I want to tear it like into big chunky triangles. You could just fold it down and get your triangles like that, okay? But I kind of like the free-form chunky triangles. So I'm just tearing it down. And I do like it how it leaves this rough white paper on that side. So now I've got these triangular shapes that I'm going to put here as ice cliffs. I'm going to stick that one to start on the edge. I'm going to bring this down a little bit there. So I've got some of these, and arrange them so that you like them. I'm going to use this flat edge to go along my edge of the paper here, right there. And if you want to kind of break off the tops a little bit to make it more natural, you can. Just make it so it's pleasing to you. And now we're going to go ahead and glue them on. You don't want to have a lot of excess glue sticking out, because we're going to be using some watercolor paint on top, and you don't want the glue to prevent the paint from absorbing into the paper. So be real careful with when you're gluing. The way I glue is I just put a little area like this. So when I glue, I put that little bit, and then I bring it to the edges with my finger. And I keep one finger that's going to be dirty with glue, and then I keep the rest of my fingers clean. That way, I'm working with neat, I'm not going to get all messy, and I'll have nice craftsmanship. Won't be all messy and gluey. And it'll also be easier for me. Now you want this line to be pretty straight, right in here. So I'm going to slide these down, because I know where they're going now. So I've planned my ice mountains. And I'm just going to finish gluing like that. Glue to the edges, place it down, keeping this straight line. And then I'm going to work up, after I finish this, I'm going to now work up some floating chunks of ice using any of the scraps that I have from these ice mountains. So I have little bits of scrap left. And this, I'm going to tear some of this off here. And this, you want these to be long and thin, like that. See, long, skinny pieces of just floating icebergs and ice pieces. Now, they're going to be really small as they reach these far distance cliffs, and slowly get a little bit bigger as they come closer to you, and that's perspective. Things are bigger when they're closer to us, and the farther they get away, they're smaller. So I'm tearing some long, skinny pieces, placing glue, and I'll start in just gluing here. And you can do about 5 to 7 of those. Tearing thin strips, placing them down. Okay, that's our next steps. Now the next step is to take a white crayon or oil pastel, and we're going to color in the 2 seals, and we're going to be very careful not to color over any of these black lines. And then we're going to do some horizontal lines going across. Let me show you close up here. See where the crayon is? Pushing really hard, coming across. That way we have a little bit of white in our picture. Now when I'm coloring this, I'm going to come across with the crayon, and my strokes are going to be horizontal in here, pushing really hard. And then I'm going to be really careful not to cover over the dots from the whiskers here. And it's going to go across his face this way, and then these lines are going to follow the curve here, and then slowly go horizontal in here. And then my strokes down here are going to be curving this way around the seal to follow the curves in his kind of blubber or creases right in here. So that's how you do the strokes. That way, when you put a paint on top and see the resist, the lines are going in the correct way. You don't want it to be scribbling this way or coming down this way. Okay, so follow the curves of his face here and then go in here, pushing really hard with the white crayon. Now you're not going to be able to see it when I'm doing it here, but I'm coming across, pushing really hard. Okay, and then when we apply the watercolor paint on top, the paint will not stick to the crayon that we've put down. And you can see I didn't completely cover. I just went around the icebergs pretty much with the crayon, but always in horizontal right across. This is where, and I did it really heavy right under the iceberg, because that's where you see a lot of extra white caps and things, where water's hitting the iceberg. Okay, so that's our next step. And then we're going to add some color to this. Now I'm going to do a watercolor resist, and I'm going to choose, it's up to you what color you want to do, the ocean color and your sky color. Let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a little bit of water, and I'm not using very strong color, just kind of a diluted color. And when you go over this, don't go over the aluminum foil. Try and go around it. And now I'm just adding some pure water to this here. And you can see wherever the crayon is, that is where my color resists. My paint pops off right here. I'm going into the watercolor each time. And my paint strokes are horizontal as well. Now you can even blend some of this with even a little bit of purple here. You know, if you want to add deep blue violet ocean. I might get some deep blue violet closer to the seals. Water, then color. And layer the colors. So you want to finish painting your ocean first. Oh, that's a piece where I missed. Gluing. I can always glue that later. So get your ocean done, and then we're going to work on the seals. Okay, I finished my ocean, and then I did my sky. I just did it a very, very light purple with almost no color and a hint of purple paint. And now I'm going to work up the seals. It's up to you the color that you want to do your seals. What I did here was just a very, very light value of, it was a little bit of purple mixed with brown to tone down the brightness of the purple. I'm going to show you how I did that. I took a little bit of, I'm just going to use this piece of foam here for mixing. But what I did was I took some purple paint here, and then I took a little bit of brown paint and put it next to the purple. Let's see if you can see that, okay. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wash my brush, and then I'm gonna barely touch purples to browns. And then I'm gonna do my painting in this direction as well, the way I did my crayon. Going into the water, purple, brown, and then I'm just gonna do it lightly. Some of the purple, brown. I don't want the seals to be really dark. That's why I colored them mostly white. This just picks up the shadows of the fur. You can put a little bit of yellow in if you want, a hint of it. Sometimes their fur is yellowy looking. And you can see how when it resists, it just pops right off. And that's what it should. And this just gives a light shadow of color. Wherever we missed, coloring in with the crayon, it picks up the color. Okay? And you're going to go ahead and finish your picture. For the eyes, what I do is I take a dark brown crayon and, oh, that's a little bit too dark. I'm gonna use a lighter brown here. And I go ahead and color in their eyes with a dark brown. Dark or medium brown. And then I go back over the pupil in the center. Sometimes my brown crayon goes on top of it. So I go back over that with the black. And that's how you finish the eyes. Let's see. There. Yeah, that gives it a solid, nice solid color right there. And there's the finished product right here. I hope you enjoyed this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed.